Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Friday, March the 15th. This will be our chart lesson for today. This was an interesting day. I think what probably made it really interesting was because I've gotten a lot of emails today, but I think what it is we talked so much the last few days about waiting on the trend line and the retest. And when we didn't get immediate retest here, it threw everybody off, and you know it's confusing. It really is. And but what I've told most of the people that sent me an email today is most of the time, you know, when you get a trend line break like this, you're going to come on down and have a retest. It didn't happen today for whatever reason. This may turn out to be a trading range day, and we may come on down and make the retest now. But for whatever reason, the market was trending up. And it really wasn't clear until right here that we were going to go higher. And the reason I say right here is because if you drew your trend line off these first couple of swings here, um, you should have had it up here. And when you saw we were bouncing off that and we went higher and we made this second entry short that failed in reverse like that, big reversal bar, you know, odds are we're going to at least go test these next highs. And, you know, you got to take these traps when they present themselves. So this is in my mind, this is when I switched to the long side. And even then I was real leery. I only took this one because it was a trap. I didn't take this one. Probably should have, but I didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of room back to this little double top, and this really looked like a possible reversal, but they went ahead and followed the rules. We broke, you notice this little channel, we broke it, two legs up to a new high, and now we're trying to sell off. So um, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways you could have stayed out of these two trades, at least on my chart. I don't know how they looked on your chart, but when we get to that, I'll show you. But in today's case, we had an overshoot, and sometimes when you get an overshoot, you don't get a retest. This is a pretty strong down channel, so I'm really shocked that we didn't. But for whatever reason, somebody was buying. This market was strong up through here, and we just kept going higher. But that's the way the market is. But the bias tells us, and when I say the bias, in other words, what's going to happen most of the time is that we're going to have a retest. And so you can't let a day like today throw you off. You just have to learn from it. And because tomorrow the retest will happen, and the rules even up here, the retest happened just like you expect. And that's what's going to happen most of the time. And so that's why we trade with those biases, because they happen more than what's happening here is happening. And then two, once you recognize that we're not reversing and you recognize we're in a channel, you just kind of got to go with it. And that's, you know, it's another thing I try to tell people is don't argue with it. You know, even though we're thinking short all the way up, don't argue with it. Just stay with it and follow the price action until you get the reversal pattern. And we're trying to set up a reversal pattern here. We finally got some lower lows, but we hadn't, and we kind of made a lower high right here, but we haven't been able to go much lower. This was resistance earlier, right across here. It might have even been right down through there. It kind of moved down there. It really started up here, and it's just kind of moved down a little bit. And you can see we're coming back and retesting that now, and what was resistance across here is acting as support. So if we can't get below it, then we're probably going to go higher. But it looks like it's trying to set up a kind of reversal pattern, but until it does, you got to stay with what you see across here. Just stay with it, and we'll go, and, you know, we'll take it from there. So that's really the best I can tell you. Nothing is 100%. Nothing's written in stone. So don't get married to any position or married to any thought process. Just follow the price action, follow the rules, and usually you'll come out on the right side. So, but let's talk about the trades, and I'll explain what I saw. But we started out in a range. This is a clear range, no doubt about it. We broke a little bit higher, and you'll see this in the overnight hours. You'll get these moves, these extreme moves, but we clearly got support down here before I came in, and this was kind of the highs from yesterday. It started out right in there, and so you really probably could have drawn your line right across there and it still works, but it kind of drifted up a little bit, and you'll see that happen. It'll drift up a tick or two, but I'd call that the highs right there, and this is a one tick trap. And if you did happen to draw this line off these two bars right here, you may not have seen this because we had a little bit lower low here. So if you had it down here drawing it, but you wouldn't have found another. You might have drawn it across here, so you might have been looking at this higher. This didn't really get confirmed until down here, so you may not have had this. It's kind of hard to say. Okay, I had an interruption there, and I don't know where we were. It's been about 20 minutes. I think I was talking about the channel. You may not have got the channel until this here. I actually originally drew it like that, and that probably still works. But once this went up, I want to use the first two swings, so I use that right there, and I believe that's the more valid line. And that actually fits right here as well. See if I got it back the same. Yeah, you can see it's pretty close. That actually fits on those two swings, and which it was to the tick again right here. So I believe this is your channel, and you can see we finally broke it. We came back and tested it right here. But anyway, let's go back to the very beginning. At the time when we started this morning, there was no channel. When I came in, just right around the 7 o'clock hour, prices were right in here somewhere, and we were coming off this high. I wanted to go short here, but as you see, it didn't set up very good. And this is why you got to be patient. Notice this ended as a doji. You don't want to go short below that because you got 1, 2, 3 overlapping bars. So I waited for it to make the trap here. It broke higher. Really made a double top with that bar right there and those bars from the previous day. But I think that's more the resistance area right there, because there weren't any closes above most of that except for this little surge during the overnight, and that's not uncommon. Sometimes you have to, it still comes into play and you still got to account for it, but it's not uncommon to see moves outside of range during the overnight hours because of the low volume, and then it doesn't really change the bigger picture. This is still a range, a trading range, and you should be able to see that because that's what you could see. That's really about what I could see right there when I came in. And that's pretty obvious looking range. You're not really trending or anything. So I'm just waiting for a possible setup. If we come back up here, we might even come test this high, but we found resistance right there. But there's no setup because look, there's this doji, and look what happens. You know what happens? That's just a 1 bar trading range, and we snap back, and then it breaks out the high side, and guess what? Then it gives you this bearish bar here, and this bar, well, let me back up where you can only see that, and never wants to cooperate. All right, that's what I could see. And so it was a little, we didn't quite close on the low, so that bar concerned me a little bit. But this is a failed break higher. It's really kind of a double top there. So rather than take a chance of going here, I just dropped a limit order. And a lot of times I'll drop it right there on the low. It gives you an extra tick. But if you can get it back in the bar, you're liable to get some extra ticks. And you don't really want to get it back outside of this because you probably won't get filled. So what I did, I dropped it right here. And you can see it went right back to the line, touched it, and then turned down. And I believe I was out on this bar right here. I was in it right there, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it did have to tick 1 tick lower. And then I was out. And then I got a runner going. And you can see the runner was safe right there, and we're heading down, and it goes right through those lows, and it finds support right in there, and it looks like it's going to reverse, but it just keeps going lower. And you know, there's a breakout pullback short here, but it was to me, this is not a very good bar, and by the time this bar is set up, you're way down here, and you're getting in too low. But also, I was looking for a possible measured leg like that right there, and that puts it down here. So by the time you get in here, you're almost there, and you can see that's about where we went to, and then we get the bounce. So that was a good clue where to exit right in there. And I actually exited my runners right here when we made that double bottom. Probably should have hung on a little bit longer, but I didn't. And then now we're heading back to the other side. But guess what? We start forming this resistance right across here. And you definitely should have had this line here by now, and that would have clued you in. And I was really looking for prices to come up here. So this is another bar similar to the one up here. It's not a perfect setup bar, but guess what? This is a two-legged correction. Back to the EMA, you got a double top right there, a failed break higher. It's a second entry short. There's actually two legs back right here as well. So there's enough reason, there's plenty of room to get out. So what I did, I just dropped, once again, I dropped a limit order in there to try to sneak in a little earlier. And I'm not telling you to do it that way. Most of you probably need to wait on the signal bar, and you want a bar that looks like that one. I was really tempted to go short right there, but I know better because we need a correction now. So, but and plus it ended up being equal to that one. But if you see, if this bar closed on its very low, which it almost did, then it's a beautiful setup. But sometimes you just got to go with what's there. And because we had this double top, and that was a perfect retest of the breakout area, so that's another double top, two test of that area. And did I know it was going to take off like this? No, I figured we'd probably chop down into here and bounce back up again and kind of get stuck in a little range here. But it went on down, and that's what happens sometimes. So if you caught either one of these entries, if you caught this one, you technically could have ridden it all the way to here. But you definitely should have ridden it to in here, and then if you catch this one, you can ride it all the way down to here. And again, once you kind of start getting into the overlap, it's probably a good place to exit. But notice we overshot that this time. And a lot of times when you get an overshoot like that, you won't get a retest. You'll just get a pullback and a retest of the trend line. And we got that right there. I honestly was still looking for a test of these lows because that's a pretty good move down. But you can see we may be heading back to do that now. Sometimes you just don't know when it's going to happen. You just have to be patient. So, and you have to look for the reversal pattern. Generally, you're going to get a reversal pattern.